Okay, so when I make liquid fertiliser, apart from the liquid fish, which I'll show you separately, I make it in barrels like this. And the recipe for my liquid fertiliser, which is very flexible, apart from the carbon source, is on the database. But the key things about the barrel is that it needs to have a very large tap. I used to make them with smaller taps than this because they're cheaper, but this is a 40mm tap and it's up 12 inches. The hole that it's through the barrel is 30 centimetres from the bottom of the barrel. So what that means is it never gets blocked. So I stir whatever's in here regularly and it slowly breaks down, and the solids end up like on the bottom below this tap, and then the tap is very easy to use and it is never blocked up, whereas with smaller taps you spend so much time just trying to unblock it. So that's liquid seaweed in there at the moment with molasses in it, and also some cow manure, and I think I've put some liquid fish, but it's fish that I've first made in the other container. So that's what I use. I mean, as I'm using it less and less because my garden soil's getting better and better, but if something needs a pick-me-up, a bit of microbe food or a little bit of nutrition, then this is kind of my medicine. Seaweed and cow manure and fish and molasses. I'm imagining within a year or two I won't need it at all. Okay, so one of the pick-me-ups fertilisers that I like to have available in my garden each year, sometimes for seedlings if I need it, especially if that's like tomatoes or peppers or eggplants that are in their pots for a long time and they need a bit of extra feed. If I haven't got vermicast, or sometimes just for watering in tomato plants or whatever. I always like to have some fish fertiliser, and it's just as good for feeding the microbes as it is for the plants. It's really amazing stuff. And it depends what kind of fish I've got, a little bit how I do it. If I'm putting a net out and we're getting herrings or small fish, I could blend them and kind of put them into the bucket in the form of a mush. But today I've got snapper frames, and they're probably 2 kilo snapper or maybe a bit more, and I'm not putting them in the blender. So I've got 4 kilos of fish frames in there, so a 20 litre bucket's a good size to make it in. And if I've got 4 kilos of fish frames, then I need about 3 times that volume of water. So I'm going to put about 10 litres of water in there. And I'm going to add a third of the weight of the fish frames in molasses, which is really important. If you do this without the molasses, it won't turn out well. The molasses is the carbon that holds the minerals, holds the microbes, and it means it smells sweet in the end. I'll have to let that dissolve, and then I also add a few tablespoons of whey. It's just whey from making kefir cheese, and that is a good inoculant for the brew to start it off. And basically it's a very simple process. You just stir it every day for a couple of weeks, and it's quite awkward to stir in the beginning. I'm just getting the molasses out. It's quite awkward in the beginning to stir it, and it doesn't smell to start with, but it will soon. And every day the fish is a little bit more fermented and a little bit more broken down, and it becomes very easy to stir. And by the end of it, you've just got a few scales and a few head bones in the bottom of the bucket, and it's a very thick, oily, fishy brew. And when it's finished fermenting, it doesn't smell anymore. So that's how you know when it's finished fermenting. So, and then the way to use it is in the information on the database, and it's just important to put a lid on it so nothing else can get in, but don't put it on tightly because the gas has to be able to escape from the fermentation. So it's fairly easy, and every day I just have to come and stir it, and after a while you probably don't need to do it every day. Once it starts to break down, you could probably do it once a week in the last few weeks. How long it takes to make is totally dependent on how you begin it. If you begin it with small fish that have been through a blender, then a month it's going to break down in a month. It'll be quite fast. But these fish, it might take, because they haven't been cut up at all, it might take 2 or 3 months to fully break down and finish fermenting. And then you can either add a little bit into the fertiliser in the bigger barrel, but mostly I just put a very small amount, as it's got on the database, into the watering can as a bit of a pick-me-up for plants that need it.